Chapter 01. I am Li Qiong. 7 o'clock in the evening, dinner time. As usual, Gugushang restaurant, nestled at the end of Beiqi Alley, was bustling with activity. The kitchen was a whirlwind of heat and the aroma of cooking food inside the dining area. Waiters and waitresses moved like a well-oiled machine, taking orders, serving dishes, and clearing tables, a vibrant mix of activity amidst a sea of diners. It was a small, unpretentious restaurant, clean but far from upscale. However, the owner's dedication and the restaurant's affordable prices and delicious food had cultivated a loyal following, resulting in packed houses every night, especially during dinner, compared to the clamour downstairs. The second floor offered a relative haven of peace. Several private rooms, separated by screens and greenery, provided a tranquil atmosphere. From the upstairs windows, one could even glimpse the scenic Lake Hart Park in the distance, and at this moment, within a secluded private room overlooking the park on the second floor, a man and a woman sat opposite each other at a table, a strange silence hanging heavy in the air. The atmosphere was somewhat peculiar. The dishes had long been served. Sitting untouched on the table, neither of them reached for their chopsticks. The man in his 20s wore a simple t-shirt and jeans. He was somewhat handsome, with thick brows and large eyes, bearing a slight resemblance to the Hong Kong actor Galen Lo. The woman, however, was impeccably dressed in a black Channel silk dress adorned with a pearl necklace. Her glossy black hair and beautiful face created an elegant and refined image, causing even the waiter who had served their food to pause and take a second look. The air in the private room was filled with the scent of the food and the woman's expensive perfume, a fragrance that felt oddly unfamiliar to the man. "I haven't seen you in a month. Have you changed your perfume?" The man smiled, looked up at the woman, paused for a couple of seconds, then said earnestly, "Actually, Jiaying, you don't need perfume. You smell best after you've showered with soap." Seeing the man break the silence, the woman also withdrew her gaze from the treetops in the distant park outside the window, looked intently at the man sitting opposite her, hesitated for a couple of seconds, and said, "I actually have something to tell you today." "What is it?" the man said, picking up his chopsticks as usual, first placing her favorite fish, fragrant shredded pork, in the woman's bowl. "Let's talk while we eat. The food's getting cold. I've been waiting for you." "Let's break up." The man's consistent gentleness and consideration gave the woman the courage to speak her mind directly, no longer caring about the consequences. This woman knew that no matter what the man sitting opposite her would hurt her. Many breakups become police chases, a few even escalate into horror films or disaster movies, but the man sitting opposite her, in the 3 years they had known each other, had never even raised his voice at her. Knowing him, she knew that even if she proposed a breakup, he wouldn't do anything to her. This breakup would be a drama, nothing more. After speaking, the woman stared at the man's face. She had rehearsed various responses in her head. What she hadn't expected was that upon hearing the words break up, his expression remained unchanged. No shock, no surprise, no sadness, no pain, no hysteria. Only his chopsticks paused in mid-air for half a second before he continued to place food in his bowl. The man calmly took a bite of food, glanced at the girl and said in a detached voice, "I agree." The man's nonchalant attitude both relieved and disappointed the woman, even sparking anger and resentment. Had he been insincere these past few years? Or had he never loved her at all? The woman's thoughts were in turmoil. "I hope you can forgive me. It's okay, perhaps it was just not meant to be. It's your birthday today, and I was planning a surprise. Looks like I don't need to now." The man remained calm. "Unexpectedly, it's you who surprised me." The woman showed no interest in the man's mention of a birthday surprise. She looked at him with judgmental eyes. "Do you know why I left you? It doesn't matter anymore." The man sighed, glanced at the woman, and said calmly, his face betraying no emotion. The woman shook her head, looking at the man. "My former classmates and friends, they're driving Benzes and BMWs, living in villas. Their days are filled with shopping, beauty treatments and they live fulfilling lives. I don't want to become a haggard housewife at 30, worrying about mortgage payments, saving for our child's education, and my parents' medical bills. It's like that woman on Feiqing Wuro said, better to cry in a BMW than laugh on a bicycle, right?" The woman nodded after a few seconds of silence. "But I never made you ride a bicycle!" The man looked at the woman earnestly, correcting her seriously. "I had you ride an electric scooter, eco-friendly. And you can enjoy a 360-degree view." This man still has this untimely sense of humor. He hasn't changed a bit. But the woman didn't laugh. "I'll be 30 in a few years. I'm not young anymore. I want to find a man I can rely on while I'm still young. I'm not the kind of woman who can share hardship and struggle with you. I can see that. Perhaps our meeting was a mistake from the start." The woman stood up from her chair, purse in hand, ready to leave. "The food's already ordered. I guess this is our last meal together. Let's call it a farewell dinner. Don't waste it. Let's finish it before you go." The man looked up at the woman. She hesitated, then sat back down. The woman only moved her chopstick symbolically, barely eating. The man, however, seemed unconcerned, eating 2 bowls of rice and most of the dishes before settling the bill and leaving. Stepping out of the restaurant, the city lights were just beginning to twinkle. The two parted politely outside. The woman walked towards Huxin Road on one side of the alley, the man heading towards the other side of Huxin Road. Yan Likong were broken up. After walking a few steps, the woman turned back and said coldly to the man following her, "Miss Lu Jiaying, I think you've misunderstood. I'm going to get my car." The man smiled. "Isn't your e-bike at the parking lot over there?" The woman looked at the man with a scrutinizing and slightly helpless expression. The woman knew that he usually came here for dinner on his electric scooter, leaving from the other end of the alley afterward, before she would leave with him. But today, There was no need. Let's change our mode of transportation today, Yan Liqiang shrugged. The woman gritted her teeth, saying nothing more. Yan Liqiang remained silent as well, and the two of them walked to the alley entrance. At the mouth of the alley, a man in his 30s stood like a car model, posing before a gleaming black BMW series, waiting for the woman's appearance. When he saw the woman and Yan Liqiang, he paused slightly, glancing at the woman. She gave him a look, and understanding the message conveyed in her eyes. Smile spread across the BMW man's face as he approached them. Hello, you must be Yan Liqiang. Jiang told me about you. The BMW man, with the air of a victor, looked down at Yan Liqiang and extended his hand. Jiang said you're in sales at a mobile phone company, doing quite well, soon to be promoted to assistant manager, and planning to buy a house on mortgage. It was unclear whether the man's tone was praise or sarcasm. Yan Liqiang also offered a radiant smile. Devoid of any dejection, she grasped the BMW man's hand firmly, shaking it up and down, like two Red Army columns meeting in Shaanxi back in the day, excited, enthusiastic, magnanimous and relieved. Haha, that job was temporary. I'm leaving too on a flight tonight. We probably won't see each other again. I'm entrusting Jiang to you. She's a good girl, gentle and kind. I hope you'll take good care of her. Oh, and Jiang probably hasn't told you, but don't let her eat ice-cold watermelon in hot weather. It gives her headaches. Also, during those days of the month, remember to make her some red sugar and ginger tea. The victorious smile on the man's face stiffened slightly. He looked at the woman with a questioning gaze. The woman was also somewhat surprised. She had expected Yan Liqiang to come here out of resentment, wanting to confront her new boyfriend, a common reaction among men. She had hoped Yan Liqiang would withdraw upon seeing her BMW man, but his current demeanor didn't resemble a man who had just been dumped. You have a flight to catch. I can drive you to the airport. It's quite a distance from here. Jiang said you usually ride an electric scooter. The BMW man remained polite. No need, my car is here. As soon as Yan Liqiang finished speaking, a luxurious silver Rolls-Royce Phantom pulled up from a distance, stopping right in front of the BMW driver's car. The Rolls-Royce's license plate was from Shanghai, and the number was quite impressive. As soon as the Rolls-Royce stopped, a 40-something-year-old driver in a sharp Armani suit and a blonde, elegantly coiffed woman with gold-rimmed glasses, high heels, and a pair of captivating legs, the very image of a sharp and capable OL, like Iron Man's secretary, simultaneously exited the vehicle. The moment the Rolls-Royce Phantom stopped, quite a few people on the street turned to look. The Armani-clad driver approached Yan Liqiang, bowing slightly before speaking. Sir, the plane is ready and waiting at the airport. Before a speechless Lu Jiang and the BMW driver, Yan Liqiang opened his arms and warmly embraced the beautiful secretary. Sir, applying for private aircraft routes in mainland China is incredibly troublesome. The beautiful secretary, speaking in Chinese, shook her head slightly after embracing Yan Liqiang, adding a gentle complaint. She pulled a document from her briefcase. By the way, this is the information on the medieval castles for sale in Europe that you asked me to look into. I've compiled a list. There are a few nice ones in France. Would you like to take a look? If so, I can immediately arrange for a property lawyer to handle the necessary procedures. You know, purchasing properties like castles in France involves many legal steps. It'll take at least a few months to complete. No need. Yan Liqiang merely glanced at the document, shaking his head. That was meant to be a gift, a surprise. But that gift and surprise are no longer needed. Dad was right, I was too naive. And the information on the football club chairman wants to acquire in Europe is also ready. Alright, let's look at it on the plane. With that, Yan Liqiang walked towards the Rolls-Royce. The Armani-clad driver stepped forward and respectfully opened the car door for him. Before ducking into the car, Yan Liqiang paused, turning to look at Lu Jiang, whose face was ashen, staring at him with disbelief. And the bean. Finally, he said, you two are indeed a perfect match. I wish you both a long and happy life together. With that, Yan Liqiang got into the car. Claudia, the stunningly beautiful woman, glanced at Lu Jiang, a faint smile playing on her lips, and said nothing. She got in as well, followed by the Armani-suited driver, who resumed his seat behind the wheel. The breathtaking Rolls-Royce Phantom, under the astonished gazes of the onlookers, silently glided through the streets outside Lakeside Park, disappearing into the traffic, leaving behind a woman teetering on the brink of collapse, filled with regret, and a thoroughly deflated man standing like statues at the entrance of the 100-foot alley. Chapter Zarodoi, not a slacker. Seated in the luxurious Rolls-Royce, Yan Liqiang gazed out at the passing scenery with a curious expression. The driver and the beautiful female secretary beside him remained silent. A Rolls-Royce is a Rolls-Royce. Along the way, in many instances, the driver didn't even need to honk. Cars on either side of the road, upon spotting the Rolls, instinctively kept a respectful distance. At traffic lights, no car dared to cut in, fearing a fender bender with the prestigious vehicle, a truly disastrous event. These multi-million-dollar vehicles deterred even the most audacious of those looking for an insurance scam, let alone ordinary drivers. Recalling his daily commute on his electric scooter, constantly harassed by cars honking furiously, Yan Liqiang reaffirmed a fundamental truth in this world. 20 minutes later, the Rolls-Royce was far from 100-foot alley, nearing the city's expressway. Yan Liqiang waited patiently. He knew the woman would call. In the quiet carriage, the song of Phoenix legend suddenly sounded. The boundless horizon is my love. Beneath the rolling green hills the flowers bloom. What rhythm is the most swinging? What song is the most joyful? Yan Liqiang took out his Huawei phone. The screen flickered, displaying an incoming call from his wife. His wife was Lu Jiang. The contact name in his phone hadn't been updated yet. This call was entirely expected by Yan Liqiang. He took a deep breath and handed the phone to the beautiful secretary beside him. The pretty secretary nodded, took the phone from Yan Likang, and pressed speakerphone. Lu Jiaying's sobs came through the phone. Licking. Why did you lie to me? Why hide these things from me? We've been together for years. Is there something wrong with me? I'm sorry, I'm just an ordinary little woman. The pretty secretary glanced at Yan Likang, who nodded. Then the secretary spoke in English. Lu Jiaying graduated from a foreign language institute and had been working at a small trading company in this city for years. Understanding a little English wasn't a problem for her. Hello, Miss Lu Jiaying. I'm Claudia, Yan's personal. I handle his personal affairs. What can I do? The sobbing on the other end of the line abruptly ceased, as if the woman hadn't expected to be speaking to someone named Claudia. Ah, where's Licking? I want to speak to him. Lu Jiaying's English was halting and broken at this moment. The beautiful secretary spoke with utmost seriousness. You've wasted far too much of Mr. Yan's time, and he is very disappointed. He had hoped you would be his true love upon his return. But the results have proven otherwise. Therefore, Miss Lu, please stop wasting our Mr. Yan's time. His time is precious and he doesn't want to waste it on something worthless. If you feel you've been wronged and require compensation, please pursue legal. Our international legal team stands ready. Please let me speak to Liqiang. I was wrong. Seeing Yan Licking nod, Claudia hung up the phone and handed it to him. Yan Liqiang took the phone, deleted the contact, then switched it off finally. He leaned back weakly against the chair, his chest rising and falling, a heart-wrenching but cathartic pain surging through him. The Rolls-Royce left the expressway and pulled over to the side of the street, not far from the high-speed rail station. This high-speed rail station is located on the outskirts of the new city, completed only last year. Except for the bustling activity around the station itself, the surrounding area is quite tranquil. Next time there's business like this, remember to find me. Thank you, boss. The blonde beauty beamed, speaking in Chinese. Before getting out of the car, she leaned in and kissed Yan Liqiang on the cheek. Then, she removed her glasses, unpinned her hair, letting it cascade over her shoulders. Exiting the vehicle, she retrieved a suitcase from the trunk, slipped on a trench coat, and headed towards the high-speed rail station. The driver glanced at Yan Liqiang in the rearview mirror before accelerating back into the flow of traffic. Young man, with a formidable character, you'll do great things in the future. The Armani-clad driver, silent throughout the journey, finally spoke, his words sounding like praise. Yan Liqiang offered a strained smile but remained silent. Half an hour later, the Rolls-Royce came to a halt at an intersection in the old city. Willow trees lined the roadside. Beyond this point lay the national highway, and not far off, several universities. From here, one could see the lights emanating from the distant campuses. The road here was quiet, with sparse traffic and no surveillance cameras. Yan Liqiang got out of the car. The Armani-clad driver also exited, swiftly removing the Rolls-Royce's front and rear license plates and replacing them with another set. He immediately got back in the car, disappearing into the national highway in the blink of an eye, leaving Yan Liqiang behind. Yan Liqiang stood forlornly under the streetlight, like a petrified statue. He stood there for a full 5 minutes before reaching into his clothes, pulling out a pack of cigarettes, and lighting one. The dim light, the swung. A solitary figure exuding a chilling aura of ruthlessness. The sight sent shivers down the spines of a few cyclists passing by, who feared a robbery and pedaled furiously away. Cigarette butts littered the ground, one after another. Today's scene was just like something out of a movie. Yes, Yan Liqiang had directed it all himself. He had already guessed that Lu Jiaying had come to see him to break up. 2 months ago, her calls had become increasingly difficult to get through. Even when he did reach her, the conversations were brief, ending quickly. Later, she began making excuses to avoid his calls altogether, and they saw each other less and less. At that point, he had a premonition that something was wrong with Lu Jiaying. Then, a few days ago, while meeting a client, he saw Lu Jiaying walking out of the Hilton Hotel hand in hand with a man in a BMW. That's when he understood everything. After inquiring with a friend who worked at Lu Jiaying's company, the man in the BMW was a newly hired, so-called director at Lu Jiaying's company. He came from a well-off family, probably worth a few million. On his first day at work, seeing Lu Jiaying's beauty, he pursued her, and she quickly fell for him. They hit it off and soon became a couple. This is a heartless age sometimes. A person's betrayal is that easy. Yan Liqiang had never thought Lu Jiaying was that kind of person, but now that it had happened to him, he realized he had been naive. Yan Liqiang already guessed what Lu Jiaying would say at this meeting. That woman, Claudia, dressed like a female Iron Man, was a foreign exchange student he'd hired from Shanghai. Claudia was British and was about to return home. She usually worked at a bar in Shanghai, earning only a few hundred yuan a day. Yan Liqiang gave her 4,000 yuan, more than she earned in a week. Upon learning about the role, Claudia readily accepted the job. The Rolls-Royce was rented from a car rental company in Shanghai, cross-city service, 15,000 yuan a day. The rented Rolls-Royce's license plate was a flaw, so Yan Liqiang separately gave the driver an extra 6,000 to get a temporary replacement. Rolls-Royces are rare in this city, and since the operation was at night, changing the plates didn't take long, only a few hours. Under Yan Liqiang's generous offer, the driver, eager for the extra cash, agreed. There weren't many lines, they were rehearsed beforehand, just a few short sentences, perfectly delivered. The Armani suit was part of the driver's uniform. After spending over 20,000, Yan Liqiang finally achieved his revenge that night, giving his ex-girlfriend and her BMW driving boyfriend a memory they'd never forget. 20,000 wasn't a small sum for Yan Liqiang. It was equivalent to several months' salary at his current job. Was it worth it? to others, but to Yan Likang, he felt it absolutely was. There's a line from Stephen Chow's Shaolin Soccer: if you don't have a dream, what's the difference between you and a salted fish? After watching Shaolin Soccer, that line had stayed with Yan Likang. He felt that for ordinary people like him, dreams were too abstract, too ethereal, too artistic, too much posturing. He preferred something practical, down to earth, something that resonated with the masses. So his life motto, the one that spurred him onward, became, if you don't put on a show, what's the difference between you and a salted fish? If showing off is done with style and skill, then life takes on meaning and depth. For instance, Wang's pursuit of a modest goal of 100 million. Ma's claim of never having touched money. These are all examples. One could argue that the history of human civilization is nothing but a continuous, ever-evolving saga of showing off. The lowest form of showing off is crude boasting, while the highest form is a sacred ritual. This is the hierarchy of showing off. Today everything was perfect. Had he not shown off today, the outcome would have been drastically different. He would have been nothing more than a nobody. He wasn't a nobody. So he had to show off today. Judging by the results, today's display deserves a 95. With the 9th cigarette butt hitting the ground, Yan Liqiang crushed the empty pack and threw it on the ground with a forceful gesture. Fuck, the single exhaled from low and raspy, like the growl of a wounded wolf. This one word released all the resentment and frustration that had been building up inside Yan Liqiang. Yan Liqiang let out another long breath, feeling the weight on his chest lessen considerably. Thinking back on the scene he had orchestrated today, a modern-day act of righteous revenge, Yan Liqiang started to laugh, first a smile, then a full-blown, uproarious laugh, alone under the streetlight. Laughing until tears streamed down his face like a madman. Chapter Zozan 3 Falling Star. After finishing his cigarette and venting his emotions, Yan Liqiang walked towards the old city in the distance, pondering his future plans as he went. He didn't want to stay in this city any longer. He had quit his job at the company yesterday. It wasn't entirely because of Lu Jiang, had been planning it for a while. Now the conditions were right, and he could strike out on his own. His department manager at company had been very hard on him, constantly suppressing him. The man even removed Yan Liqiang's name from the authorship of a brilliant PPT for the company's OA system, afraid the boss would find out it was Yan Liqiang's work. But even with someone holding him back, Yan Liqiang thrived in the company thanks to his outstanding abilities. This year in particular, Yan Liqiang had achieved the highest sales in the company for 4 consecutive quarters. He received heaps of praise from clients, one of whom even wrote a letter of thanks to the company headquarters. Even several bigwigs at headquarters knew his name. He had completely distinguished himself, and the manager could no longer suppress him. A raise and promotion were a sure thing, but Yan Liqiang still chose to leave. An old CEO he knew greatly admired his abilities and character. This CEO was investing in a large comprehensive mobile phone mall in another city and wanted Yan Liqiang to manage it, offering him a significant stake, transforming him from an employee to a shareholder and partner. Yan Liqiang had been hesitant at first, as his future at the current company looked bright, with his income and benefits about to multiply several times over. But to secure Yan Liqiang and show his sincerity, the CEO even renamed the planned mobile phone mall Liqiang Communications. After that, what more could Yan Liqiang say? Everything was starting anew. Yan Liqiang was confident he could achieve great things. The impressive show he put on today might just become a reality in the future. Even if he couldn't become a second-generation rich kid, he might still become the father of one. For that sliver of possibility, Yan Liqiang would fight tooth and nail. A man who doesn't strive is no different from a salted fish. This was the second maxim in Yan Liqiang's life. Yan Liqiang hadn't actually been suffering these past few days. The worst of it had been when he discovered Lu Jiang's infidelity. That blow almost knocked him off his feet, even prompting some extreme thoughts. But after getting through those days, he realized he had no reason to hurt others for a woman who had betrayed him so easily and was so vain. It simply wasn't worth it. What was done was done. If Lu Jiang hadn't been so ruthless, if they truly hadn't been meant to be, Yan Liqiang wouldn't have orchestrated this today. Today's actions were intended as a lesson for that vain woman. Thinking about the impressive display he'd just put on, and imagining the woman's current remorse, Yan Liqiang can't help but laugh. The satisfaction of a successful prank gradually washed away his lingering frustration. Yan Liqiang felt he'd spent years perfecting his image, but today's performance was undoubtedly the pinnacle of his career. He took out his switched-off phone, removed the old SIM card, and tossed it into a nearby gutter. He inserted a new SIM card, turned the phone on, and dialed a number. "Liqiang, my boy, how's it going with the company matters?" A hearty voice, full of enthusiasm, answered from the other end. "Everything's handled. I'll be at Yangqing Airport tomorrow afternoon at 4. Don't call me Boss Joe anymore. Call me Huanji!" The man on the other end spoke with earnest sincerity and a jovial tone. "I'll send a car to pick you up at the airport tomorrow afternoon. We'll have a welcome dinner and I'll introduce you to a few friends. They're influential figures in Yangqing. They've heard about you from me, and they say it's rare to find someone as loyal as you these days. They're all eager to meet you." "Thank you. Hey, don't mention it. Don't be so polite with me next time. If it weren't for your help last time, I would been swindled out of over 100 million by those South Korean crooks. Losing that money isn't a big deal, it's just a few houses. But I can't afford to lose face. It's thanks to you, Liqiang, that I saved my face. I admire your integrity, your competence, and your loyalty. When you come to Guangzhou tomorrow, you don't have to worry about a thing. I've already arranged your accommodation and car. You don't have to worry about anything, just focus on your work. In putting you in charge of the entire department store, I'll only assign a financial manager, everything else is up to you. The department store is just a small venture, a personal investment of mine. Once you've gotten the department store running smoothly and have made some achievements, gained some experience, I'll transfer you to the group company to help me. Then the other shareholders won't have any objections." After ending the call, Yan Liking let out a long sigh, his frustration dissipating. He felt life was like a seesaw. While he was unlucky in love, his career, thanks to years of networking and hard work, had unexpectedly reached a new and higher level. Even if he hadn't put on this act, Lu Jane would have regretted her choice if she knew Yan Likang's current circumstances. But Yan Likang still chose to act the part. For one reason, it felt good. He wasn't the kind of man who couldn't live without a woman. Yan Likang could accept Lu Jane's departure, but he couldn't forgive her betrayal. Deserved no further sincerity. Radios, insoles, needles and thread for sale. After hanging up with Huan Ji, Yan Likang unconsciously found himself on a street in the old city. A vendor's call nearby under a street lamp caught his attention. It was an elderly couple, their hair completely white, setting up a stall. They were dressed neatly and cleanly, with a somewhat dilapidated tricycle parked beside them. The old man was hawking their wares, while the old woman sat on the tricycle, using scraps of cloth to cut out insoles. Their stall was situated under a street lamp, its light illuminating their goods clearly in the night. Seeing the items the elderly couple had laid out, a pang of sadness resonated in Yan Likang's heart. Many young people living in big cities probably hadn't seen such a stall in their lives, let alone imagine that such items could be sold this way. An old vendor displayed a collection of items that hardly looked brand new: several old, chipped radios, a few aged tungsten filament bulbs, a pair of dusty, a box of old unsoles, 2 pairs of slightly worn nail clippers, a box containing needles, elastic bands and buttons, a few old mobile phone batteries of unknown model, 2 power strips, and a pile of old books and other miscellaneous items. To many, these things were trash, not worth picking up, let alone selling. A laughable proposition. But Yan Likyong knew these old people weren't joking. For many elderly, laid-off individuals living in the old city with no other means of support, this was their livelihood. They truly depended on these items to earn some money. Yan Likyong had seen many such elderly people. During the day, city management was strict, so these old people didn't dare to come out. Only at night did they venture forth to sell their wares. Many times Yan Liking had seen them selling things like half a bottle of soy sauce, half a bundle of noodles, a few beer bottles, half a pack of remaining cold medicine, or a worn. For these elderly individuals, this was the only way they could think of to earn money with more dignity than begging. Yan Likang didn't consider himself particularly noble, but every time he saw these helpless elderly people hawking their goods at night, he would buy something if he didn't need it. Yan Likang approached the old person's stall, crouching down before it, examining the displayed items. The old person looked at Yan Likang with a hint of expectation and nervousness. "Young man, is there anything you need? These things are cheaper than in the shops and still usable." Yan Likyong wasn't sure what he could buy, but at moments like these, his talent for dramatic flair invariably surfaced. Yan Likyong sifted through the old books and discovered an intriguing volume. Illustrated treatise on Yi Jin Jing and Marrow cleansing internal kung fu. It was an old book, published by the Zhongzhou Ancient Books Publishing House 20 years prior, with an original price of only 26 yuan. Seeing this book, Yan Likong was stunned. He hadn't expected to find a really Jinjing manual. He had always thought it was merely fictional, a fabrication of novels and films. Yet, here, a tangible reality. He picked up the book, slowly turning the pages, discovering that besides a few prefaces and a small amount of text, the book consisted mostly of detailed diagrams of various exercises. Gazing at the book nestled amongst the piles of old texts, Yan Likang could only marvel at the profoundness of Chinese culture, that even a random browse through a second-hand bookstore could unearth a cultivation manual. He couldn't muster any other reaction. Oh well, might as well have some fun when I'm old and have nothing to do. I'll practice these exercises in the park every morning. Think of it as a fancy version of morning exercises. I can even show off a bit, while everyone else is doing square dancing. Now that's class! With this thought in mind, Yan Likang exclaimed in an exaggerated tone. "Ah, I've finally found it! I never expected to find something like this here!" A look of delight spread across his face as he held up the old book to the old vendor. "Sir, how much is this book?" This book is 10 yuan. The old man seemed slightly embarrassed, perhaps feeling that even 10 yuan was too much for a used book. 10 yuan. He patted himself down, pulled 5 crisp 100 yuan bills from his pocket, and handed them over. "Sir, I'll take it." 500 yuan. "Ah, so much?" The old man was startled, quickly waving his hands at Yan Liking. No, I don't accept that much. Too much. I've already spent a lot of money today to show off, so I don't mind spending an extra 500 yuan. To put it a bit pretentiously, it feels good to spend this kind of money. For some people, this is less than a high-end massage, but for this old man, it might be a month's living expenses. "Sir, you don't understand. This book isn't just any ordinary book. It's extremely valuable. Well, I checked online, and they're selling complete sets of new books for only 50 or 60 yuan. I found this one at a scrap recycling station. It's not worth this much." The old vendor did seem to be someone easily swayed by money. "Sir, you don't understand. This is about the year and the edition. This book was published early, making it very rare and having special collection value. In a few years, it might be worth even more." "Is that so?" Even the old man was dubious. swayed by Yonka. I'm not trying to take advantage of you, sir. Just 500. Yan Likang said with a serious expression, his tone so convincing that almost even he believed it. He shoved 5 red bills into the old man's hand. And before the old man could respond, he took the book and left. The street vendor watched Yan Likang leave with a grateful yet complicated look. After a while, he glanced down at the 5 red bills in his hand, sighed, and turned to his wife. Old woman, he said, there are still good people in this world. We met a good one today. The street was sparsely populated, but the streetlights were bright. More than 10 minutes after leaving the old man's stall, Yan Likiang, casually flipping through the book he'd just purchased, heard an excited shout from afar. A meteor! It's heading this way! Yan Likang, walking on the sidewalk, stopped and looked up at the sky in surprise. The moment he raised his head, the surrounding street blazed with intense white light enveloping everything. Before he could react, a deafening roar erupted beside him, and Yan Likang instantly lost consciousness. Yan Likang vanished on the sidewalk where he'd been standing. A crater several meters in diameter remained. Minutes later, fire engines, police cars and ambulances arrived, sirens wailing, cordoning off the scene. Television reporters also appeared. A week later, another entry was added to a city police department's missing persons file. Yan Likang, male, Chinese, born on high date in Atoha date in this city. Chapter House on a Strange World. Lik, wake up, Likiang. At some point, Yan Likang vaguely heard an anxious voice and felt someone gently patting his face. The voice gradually grew clearer until Yan Likang felt someone shouting in his ear. He opened his eyes abruptly. The first thing he saw was the face of a 14 or 15-year-old boy inches from his own. The boy's face was slightly chubby, dotted with a few pimples, and his eyes were red, filled with anxiety and anger. It was this boy's hand that had been slapping his face. To Yan Likang, the face was that of a stranger, yet somehow it felt strangely familiar. He couldn't, however, recall the boy's name. Seeing Yan Likang's eyes open, the boy's face lit up with surprise. You're awake! Likang, are you alright? Yan Likang's head was still foggy, his consciousness hazy. Everyone, make way! Don't crowd around. Let's carry him to the medical clinic. A middle-aged man's voice cut through the air. The 14 or 15-year-old boy then stood up, allowing Yan Likiang to realize he was lying on the ground, surrounded by a dense circle of young people aged 14 to 17 or 18, all looking down at him with a variety of expressions. Some looked at him with concern, others with schadenfreude, while still others stared with shock and curiosity. What baffled Yan Likang most was the strange clothing worn by these young people. They all wore identical uniforms, belted at the waist, resembling martial arts training suits. Their hair was long, like something out of a television drama. What was going on? A question formed in his mind. Was this some kind of prank, or was he dreaming? The thought of dreaming had barely crossed his mind when a sharp pain shot through his head, back, and right arm. The pain was intense, relentless, wave after wave, assaulting his central nervous system and reminding him, with brutal, of the very real crisis his body was facing. Amid the searing pain, Yan Likiang blinked. The young faces around him snapped into focus, and he heard the murmur of the crowd. Serves him right for always showing off! Haha, he deserted. I didn't expect Hong Tao to be so skilled. Has silently mastered the 3rd level of Iron San Palm, but he was too brutal. He almost killed Yan Likang. I can't believe Yan Likang can still open his eyes. Hong Tao should have been even harsher. He should have crippled him, so that this annoying guy can't participate in the county martial arts exam in 2 months. Yan Likang felt his vision blacken, a stabbing pain in his head and emptiness in his body. The sharp faces and the whispers around him blurred again, swaying before him. What's wrong with these people? Why do they feel both familiar and strange? A dream, this must be a dream. A voice echoed in Yan Likang's mind, but no matter what it said, everything he saw and felt became increasingly real. Suddenly, the crowd parted and a man in his 30s, strong and tall with dark features, appeared before Yan Likang. He crouched down, peered at Yan Likang, and pinched various parts of his body, as if checking him over. Then, he grabbed Yan Likiang's right hand, pulled, twisted and released it with a sharp crack. The dislocated arm was instantly back in place. As his arm was reset, Yan Likang groaned, sweat beading on his forehead. The man stood up, and in a low voice ordered, carry Yan Likang to the medical clinic. Someone fetched a stretcher. Several people nearby turned Yan Likang onto it, then the crowd parted to let him pass. Watching as he was carried away lying on the stretcher, Yan Likang saw a dense crowd of men and women, countless, all wearing similar martial arts uniforms, their faces a mixture of expressions as they watched him go. Not far away, he saw a platform more than 2 meters high. A strong-year-old boy stood on it, arms crossed, his cold gaze condescending, a hint of mockery on his lips. Behind the boy, a gigantic meter-high, greenish hand-shaped shadow was slowly dissipating. Looking up, he saw a banner hanging on the platform with large characters reading Pingxi County, Qing County, National Martial Arts Preliminary Examination, Ring D 7th Preliminary Match, winner Hong Tao! Next contestants, prepare! An old man in a long robe standing on the platform bellowed with a powerful voice as Yan Likang was carried away. Everything continued as normal, but Yan Likang's mind was a tangled mess. As he was carried through the dense crowd, Yan Likiang realized he was in a large courtyard. Several buildings with a peculiar Chinese architectural style stood within, and beside the central training ground were rows of weapon racks. It was morning, the courtyard shaded by trees, filled with birdsong and fragrant flowers. In the distance, the shouts of young people sparring echoed from the platform. The sky was a breathtaking blue, as if drawing the soul into its depths. Such a blue sky. Yan Likang. He had owed a trip to Shangri-La in Yunnan. Suddenly, The stretcher lurched and Yan Likang tumbled to the ground, his head and body hitting hard. A searing pain shot through him, and his vision went black. Xuanhuan. What are you doing? The fat man carrying the stretcher roared. Sorry, I slipped. You clearly did it on purpose. So what if I did? Humph. Xuanhuan, this has nothing to do with you. Do you think Yan Ling can still be as arrogant as before? Listening to the argument, Yan Likang allowed a wry smile in his heart. This Yan Liking must have offended quite a few people. He had little popularity, and even those who were supposed to carry his stretcher were taking this opportunity to get him. A wave of weakness washed over it again. In his unconsciousness, Yan Likang had a long dream. In this dream, he was born in a strange world called the Silver Continent. The Silver Continent was filled with countless races, where the strong preyed on the weak. Powerful nations, tycoons, giants and sects filled the land. It was a world where might made right, and strength dictated everything. In this world, his name was still Yan Likang, but unlike his life in an orphanage on Earth, in this world he had a somewhat deranged and strict father. His father was a blacksmith in Qing County, Pingxi Prefecture of the Great Han Empire. From the time he could remember, his father only had one demand: train in martial arts, train in martial arts, train in martial arts. Besides the relentless martial arts training, he had almost no other memories. At the end of this long dream, Yan Likang saw again the version of himself who was born on Earth, the one who liked to show off. He saw Lu Jiang, the meteor hurtling towards him, and the dazzling white light. In the light, the two different dreams and memories finally merged completely, and the two Yan Likangs became one. Yan Likang woke up, opened his eyes and found himself lying in bed. Everything that had happened on Earth felt like an unreal dream to him now. It seemed to be a hospital ward. The first thing that caught his eye was a white ceiling and a white mosquito net hanging above the bed. Then, Yan Likang smelled the alcohol and the strong scent of traditional Chinese medicine. The ward was empty. Looking out the window, the sky suggested it was nearing dusk, meaning I'd been lying here for half a day. Half a day's rest and recovery had completely restored my clarity of mind. My chest and back still felt somewhat stuffy and uncomfortable, and the back of my head throbbed. I found a sizable lump. I lifted the covers and discovered I was shirtless, my chest and back wrapped in white gauze. My chest burned, likely from some applied medicine. I threw on my clothes and got out of bed. A mirror hung conveniently on the wall beside the bed. Gazing at the 14 or 15-year-old boy reflected therein, I paused slightly. The boy's face was identical to my own at that age. Even the birthmark on my left earlobe remained unchanged. The only difference was that my 14 or 15-year-old self had been rather skinny, practically a beanpole, whereas the boy in the mirror possessed a remarkably well-developed physique, easily model material. His arms, abdomen, and chest displayed clearly defined muscles, particularly a striking 8-pack on his abdomen, radiating strength. Such a physique couldn't be achieved by a 14 or 15-year-old without years of rigorous training. I'd hit a initially son of my tented years younger body, and physique in the mirror instantly improved my mood. A smile involuntarily touched my lips. My son, where's my son, Yan Likang? A gruff, agitated voice sounded from outside the room. I had barely turned when the door burst open, and a man stormed in. Chapter 1005. He ambushed the man who barged in, a PB in his 40s, strong and burly, his clothes stained with what looked like iron filings and traces of smoke and fire. The ward door wasn't so much opened as it was ripped off its hinges. Entering with the man were two boys, one of them the chubby Xuanhuan whom he had seen when he first woke up, and the other a rather thin one. All three were sweating profusely and slightly breathless, as if they had run all the way. Likang, are you alright? Where does it still hurt? Are you feeling unwell anywhere? Before Yan Likang could speak, the 40-something-year-old man strode over anxiously, placing his hands on Yan Likang's shoulders and checking his body from head to toe. Only when he saw that Yan Likang was indeed unharmed did the man's anxious expression slightly relax. Seeing the genuine concern and anxiety on the man's face, an indescribable wave of emotion surged through Yan Likang's heart. In his past life he had grown up in an orphanage, never knowing what fatherly love was. Unexpectedly, in this, he had found such a father. Father, I'm fine. The wound has been treated and I should be fine after a few days' rest. That's good! The man finally lifted his large hands from Yan Likang's shoulders, letting out a long sigh of relief. If it weren't for Xuanhuan and Qi Donglai running to tell me, I wouldn't even know you were hurt. After saying this, the man turned to the two boys who had entered with him. Xuanhuan, Donglai, come to my place another day. I'll treat you to a drink. It's getting late now. Your families must be waiting now! Xuanhuan nodded, glancing at Yan Likang. Okay, Uncle Yan, since Likang has woken up, we'll go back. Go, go! As the two boys were about to leave, Yan Likang suddenly called out to them. Xuanhuan, Donglai, thank you! Young Xuanhuan was slightly taken aback. Seemingly surprised to hear the word thank you from Yan Likang, he chuckled, scratching his head. It's nothing. Really? Standing beside him, cast a surprised glance at Yan Likang only to find Yan Likang's sharp gaze fixed on him. Qi Donglai smiled. Alright then. Likang, get some rest! Watching Xuanhuan and Qi Donglai leave, a question inexplicably arose in Yan Likang's mind. For some reason he felt Qi Donglai seemed tense. When Yan Likang looked at him, Qi Donglai's lips involuntarily pressed together slightly, and he unconsciously swallowed. From Yan Likang's past experience, why was Qi Donglai so nervous around him? Suddenly, Yan Likang recalled his match with Hong Tao earlier that day. His defeat in the arena had been unexpected. During the fight with Hong Tao, he'd suddenly felt a sharp numbness in his lower right leg, causing his body to freeze and his movements to falter. That single moment of hesitation allowed Hong Tao to seize the opportunity, closing the distance and unleashing his iron sand palm, striking Yan Liqiang twice and sending him flying from the arena. A humiliating defeat that left him injured and unable to fully recover for some time. He hadn't known about Hong Tao secretly practicing the iron sand palm. Even if Hong Tao had been training it, it hadn't been long enough for him to master it. If they fought fairly, Yan Liqiang shouldn't have lost so miserably in front of everyone. Liqiang, weren't you and Hong Tao evenly matched before? You even sparred quite a bit. Even if he's been practicing the iron sand palm and has made some progress, he hasn't been at it long. You shouldn't have lost so badly in the arena today. What happened? After Su Chang and Qi Donglai left, Yan Liqiang's father immediately questioned him about the match with a stern expression. His reaction showed that he was even more upset about Yan Liqiang's defeat than Yan Liqiang himself. I don't know what happened. I just froze for a second and Hong Tao hit me. Maybe I was too shocked to see that he'd learned the iron sand palm, Yan Liqiang mumbled. One match doesn't say anything. Victory and defeat are common in warfare. As long as you go back and work hard, summarize your experience, and next time you meet Hong Tao in the ring, you can definitely defeat him. You must become the strongest among your generation in Qing County. You must defeat Hong Tao. Do you hear me? Yan Dekang stared intently at Ling, his eyes filled with great expectation, his tone carrying an inexplicable pressure. He placed his hand on Yan Liqiang's shoulder again, squeezing it hard. What else could Yan Liqiang say? He simply nodded habitually. Yan Liqiang had developed a habit of obeying his father, and his father's small life goal for him was to become the number one among the younger generation in Qing County. Seeing Yan Liqiang nod, Yan Dekang finally breathed a sigh of relief. In the following time, Yan Dechang found a doctor from the medical clinic. He tirelessly and meticulously inquired about Yan Liqiang's injuries. After learning that Yan Liqiang was indeed unharmed, only suffering from some bruising in his chest, and that as long as he avoided strenuous exercise and martial arts training for 1 or 2 months, he would gradually recover, he bought 2 bottles of medicinal wine from the clinic before leaving with Yan Liqiang. The medical clinic was located inside the martial arts school. When the two walked out of the clinic, the martial arts school had already become quiet. The training ground and the ring were empty, devoid of the daytime's hustle and bustle. Only the clinic still had some patience. Yan Dekang's brows furrowed as he walked out of the martial arts school, his face as stern as iron. After the doctor said that Yan Liqiang would need at least 1 or 2 months of rest and recuperation, his expression darkened, because if that were the case, it would mean that Yan Liqiang might not be able to participate in the county martial arts examination 2 months later. Outside the martial arts school was Qing County Town, naturally the most prosperous place in Qing County. The street outside the martial arts school was 5 zhang wide, with bustling traffic, people coming and going, and shops and tall buildings lining the street, extremely lively. The sun was setting, and the sky was just beginning to darken. Strings of red lanterns were already hung at the entrances of some shops. Among the people walking on the streets, many were dressed in long gowns and hanfu, with swords hanging from their waists, each looking ethereal and valiant, creating a dreamlike scene. Yan Dekang looked around and directly instructed Yan Liqiang, "Wait here. The doctor told me you should move as little as possible these next few days. Ill call. It's still several miles from here to home. We'll take a carriage back today." After speaking, Yan Dekang didn't wait for Yan Liqiang to respond and walked towards the side of the street to find a carriage. Watching Yan Dekang leave, a wry smile touched Yan Liqiang. As a father, Yan Dekang had been overly strict, a veritable tiger dad in Yan Liqiang's memory. From childhood had meticulously orchestrated every aspect of Yan Liqiang's life, leaving him with nothing to worry about except one thing: training and more training, to become stronger and stronger. Because of this upbringing, Yan Liqiang had almost no experience of a normal childhood. Lacking the friendships and simple joys common to his peers, he was solitary, taciturn, and utterly unsophisticated in social matters. This personality made him a social outcast at the town school. Few wanted anything to do with him. His frequent participation in the school's combat training sessions only exacerbated the situation, as he had beaten many of his classmates in sparring, earning their resentment. This explained the schadenfreude displayed by so many after he was knocked off the fighting stage today, and why some even went so far as to throw him from the stretcher. In terms of social skills and interpersonal relationships, without a doubt, a textbook example of what not to do, and had been for over a decade. As for Su Chang and Qi Donglai, their friendship with Yan Liqiang was relatively recent, less than a year old. It began when Yan Liqiang intervened to save them from a group of bullies who were extorting them after school one day last year. Since then, Su Chang and Qi Donglai have considered him a good friend. Only after Yan Dekang's figure disappeared down the street did Yan Liqiang crouch down, roll up the leg of his right trouser, and begin a careful examination. Almost effortlessly, guided by his intuition, Yan Liqiang found a tiny red mark on his right calf, resembling a pinprick. There was a small, darker stain on the fabric of his trousers at the same spot, almost as if a drop of oil had been spilled there. The mark was so faint that it was almost invisible unless one looked closely. Seeing the mark, Yan Liqiang's eyes narrowed. One thing immediately sprang to mind: ice ants. Ice ants are unusual creatures, highly venomous. A bite causes immediate numbness throughout the body. They are mostly found in the mountains and forests. Living in colonies like ordinary ants, they rarely venture into human settlements, but not never, almost every year. Yan Liqiang heard news of hunters or woodcutters in Qing County being bitten by ice ants after returning home from the mountains. Ice ants are about the same size as ordinary ants, completely white, some almost transparent, making them hard to spot. Many people going up the mountain inadvertently bring several back with them. For a person, being bitten by 1 or 2 ice ants isn't fatal, it only causes temporary paralysis. But if bitten by a swarm, it could be lethal. Once an ice ant bites and releases all its venom, it dies like a bee after stinging, its body melting like ice into a droplet of liquid. The marks on my leg and the sensation I felt perfectly matched the characteristics of an ice ant bite. How did an ice ant end up on me out of nowhere? Recalling Xuanhuan's earlier, Yan Likeng pieced everything together in his mind. What a clever scheme! Yan Likeng didn't want Yan Dekang to know about this. If Yan Dekang found out that Yan Likeng's failure in the preliminary county examination was a deliberate sabotage, given his temperament, he might well seek revenge violently. Hong Tao's father was the magistrate of Liu Town in Qing County. Several of his uncles held positions in the Qing County government and Pingxi Prefecture. Serving in various official capacities, the Hong family was a prominent clan in Qing County, far surpassing ordinary families, and in Li, they were the most influential house. Likeng's home was in Liu Town. In a short while, Yan Dekang returned, accompanied by an ox cart. Chapter 6. The Yan and Hong families. Liu Town was a large town in Qing County, neither too far nor too close to the county seat, yet still 3 or 4 miles away today. Su Chang and Qi Donglai, having just finished the preliminary examination, ran from the county seat to Liu Town to inform Yan Dekang, who then ran with them all the way to Qing County's martial arts school. Normally, this distance was nothing for Yan Likeng. He would run at least 10 miles every day as part of his training, but now, injured as he was, he could only sit on the ox cart summoned by Yan Dekang, swaying gently as they left the county seat and returned to Liu Town. Beyond the gates of Qing County lay vast farmland, and the road to Liu Town wound its way through them. The ox cart creaked and groaned as it moved, its wooden wheels rolling over the compacted earth road, causing the whole vehicle to sway slightly, yet it remained steady. Dusk had fallen, the fields were deserted, the farmers having gone home. Only the croaking of frogs and the scent of rice filled the air. 3 moons, varying in size, gradually emerged in the sky, and countless brilliant stars appeared, their ethereal glow filling the boundless void, seemingly orchestrating the rise and fall of the celestial bodies. Yan Dekang sat in silence, his mood somber. Yan Likeng, however, looked up at the night sky, his heart captivated by its beauty and vastness. Possibly even through foul play, he felt no great discouragement, only excitement to him. Simply being alive to gaze at the stars was a victory. The cart driver, who knew Yan Dekang, sat, oblivious to the father and son's expressions. He chatted incessantly. Today was the preliminary county martial arts examination in Qing County. I've heard that Master Yan's son is already among the best in Liu Town despite his young age. Has sure to place highly in this preliminary examination. If he does well in the official county examination, he'll have the chance to enter the Pingxi County Martial Arts School, learn advanced martial arts techniques from renowned masters, and become a warrior. That's a life-changing opportunity. Master Yan, you'll be able to hold your head high in Liu Town and Qing County. By the way, did your son make it into the top 3? No, Yan Dekang replied curtly. Hearing Yan Dekang's response, the driver turned and saw his grim expression. Realizing he'd said something inappropriate, he gave a sheepish smile and fell silent. Halfway to Liu Town, less than 2 li away, a clear sound of hooves came from behind the ox cart Yan Likeng was riding. The sound grew closer and closer. Yan Likeng turned his head and saw a steward and 2 servants from the Hong family riding 3 rhinoceros horses catching up from behind. As the 3 rhinoceros horses passed the ox cart, the steward pulled on the reins, and the 3 horses slowed down, moving forward slowly with the ox cart. The Hong family steward wore a blue robe, with a small mustache on his lips and a shrewd look on his face. The 2 servants wore grey short jackets and carried swords at their waists. The Hong family steward's eyes swept over Yan Dekang and Yan Likeng, father and son. A weasel-like smile appeared on his face as he greeted Yan Dekang. Is it this Master Yan, the blacksmith? What a coincidence. Meet you here. Steward Hong is also out on business. Yan Dekang couldn't pretend he hadn't heard the other man's greeting. He responded dully. Ha ha ha. Didn't my young master, Hong Tao, rank among the top 3 in today's martial arts preliminary examination? My master received the news early this morning and immediately sent me to Yuntao County to deliver the good news to Hong Tao's elder and 3rd uncles. My master will hold a grand banquet at home to celebrate Hong Tao's ranking in the preliminary examination. His entry into Pingxi County's martial arts academy is already a sure thing. By the way, I heard that your son was knocked off the stage by our young master Hong Tao today, falling unconscious and sustaining serious injuries. He only fought 1 match before going to the medical clinic. Is your son alright now? Yan Dekang's face instantly darkened. He clenched his fists fiercely. My son is fine. Thank you for your concern, Steward Hong. That's good, that's good. Steward Hong continued to smile. My master always says that as neighbors we should help each other. Our Hong family pharmacy has a large collection of excellent medicinal herbs for healing injuries. If you need anything you can come to our master. He's always been known for his public spiritedness and will certainly help. Humph. Yan Dekang responded through his nostrils. These rhinoceros horses of the Hong family have traveled quite a distance these days, and their horseshoes are quite worn. It'll have to trouble you, Master Yan, to make some good horseshoes for these beasts in the future. If your son doesn't fare well in the county examinations this year, he could consider becoming a servant for the Hong family. My master always admires young men like your son who are hardworking and strive for progress. Ha ha ha. Steward Hong laughed heartily. After saying this, he didn't wait for Yan Dechang's response and prepared to ride away. "Please give young Master Hong Tao a message from me." Yan Likang, who had remained silent, suddenly spoke, causing Steward Hong to pause. He looked at Yan Likang with curious eyes and asked, "What message do you want me to give young Master Hong Tao?" "Please tell Master Hong Tao that Yan Likang is grateful for his guidance on the arena today." Yan Likang smiled, neither humble nor arrogant, graceful and composed, showing no trace of resentment. Instead, his expression was sincere. "Victory and defeat are common occurrences in the military arts," he said. "My defeat today was due to my inferior skills. I admire Master Hong Tao's prowess and harbor no resentment. With Master Hong Tao's example to spur me on, I will strive to improve and work harder, living up to the name my father gave me. I hope that one day I will have another opportunity to learn from Master Hong Tao." The usually relaxed manager Hong's face subtly changed, becoming. Yan Likang's words revealed a spirit and an indomitable will. Such a young man would not be crushed by a single initial defeat. He did not laugh at Yan Likang again. Instead, he stared intently at the young man, as if seeing him for the first time. He nodded, said nothing more, and rode off with his 2 attendants, leaving only the sound of hooves. Vanishing from Yan Likang's sight in the blink of an eye, Yan Dekang also looked at his son in surprise. He never expected his usually quiet and reserved son to speak so eloquently. Yan Likang's words struck a chord within him, easing the frustration and dejection in his heart. The ox cart paused for a while, waiting for the dust kicked up by the 3 rhinoceros horses to settle before slowly continuing towards Li Town. The Yan and Hong families both resided in Li Town. One was the undisputed leading family, the other a blacksmith family. Their conflict stemmed from Yan Liqiang. From a young age, Yan Dekang had rigorously trained his son in martial arts, and Yan Liqiang's diligence had earned him a certain reputation among the youth of Liu Town. The Hong family, however, also had a young master around the same age as Yan Liqing. Under these circumstances, the Hongs could not allow the son of a blacksmith to surpass their own heir in reputation, especially after Yan Liqing turned 10. The Hongs overtly and covertly targeted the Yan family, and their master Hong Tao consistently tried to suppress Yan Liqiang. Yan Liqiang's home in Liu Town was easy to find, situated by the Li River. His house, courtyard, stables, and Yan Dekang's blacksmith workshop occupied over 3 mu of land. The large chimney of the workshop was visible from a distance. Besides Yan Liqiang and Yan Dechang, 2 others lived in the house Zhou Tieshu. Yan Dekang's apprentice at the blacksmith workshop and Wu Ma their elderly servant. Wu Ma was a mute. For as long as Yan Liqiang could remember, she had lived with them. According to Yan Dekang, Wu Ma was a refugee. The year Yan Liqiang was born, Wu Ma fled the war in the north and ended up in Qing County alone and destitute. One harsh winter, she nearly froze to death on the roadside. Yan Dekang found her, took her in, paid for her medical treatment, and she stayed, taking care of the household chores, washing, cooking, cleaning. She's been part of the family ever since. When Yan Liqiang returned home, Wu Ma, as usual, had already prepared the meal and was keeping it warm. Seeing Yan Liqiang and Yan Dekang return, the speechless Wu Ma quickly served the food. 4 people ate together: Yan Dekang, Yan Liqiang, Zhou Tiju and Wu Ma. It was said that when Wu Ma first arrived, she refused to eat at the table. But after living with the Yan family for a long time and proving herself diligent and hardworking, Yan Dekang invited her to join them, treating her as family. Yan Dechang, Zhou Tieko and Wu Ma's meal was simple green beans, radish soup, rice, and a small dish seasoned heavily with salt. Yan Liqiang's meal, however, was far more elaborate. In addition to the ordinary home-cooked dishes, a small earthenware pot sat before him. Lifting the lid released the rich aroma of stewed quail with ginseng. This was specially prepared for Yan Liqiang by Yan Dechang, who himself refused to eat it. Wu Ma, having witnessed cannibalism during her escape, had since abstained from all meat. Yan Dekang's apprentice was a dutiful and honest man who never overstepped his bounds at the table. He ate what Yan Dekang ate, even avoiding dishes Yan Liqiang favored, taking little or none. Only Yan Liqiang ate the rich broth from the earthenware pot. The sole income for the household came from Yan Dekang, a blacksmith, supporting 4 people and a rhinoceros horse. The daily expenses were considerable, even with his relatively high income. Life was not easy, especially since Yan Liqiang was training in martial arts, an expensive pursuit. This strained their already tight finances, except for holidays when Yan Dekang would allow Wu Ma to add a few dishes and they would all share some meat. Only Yan Liqiang consistently had meat and fish for all 3 meals, his nutrition never lacking. Being a blacksmith, as long as you can eat your fill and have enough salt, you don't need delicacies, but those who practice martial arts can't do without them. This is what Yan Dekang told Yan Liqiang, looking at the distinctly separate dishes on the table and his own special treatment for over a decade, then looking at Yan Dechang, who only had 2 sets of clothes to change throughout the year. Yan Liqiang's nose couldn't help but feel a little sour, and the chopsticks in his hand felt inexplicably heavy. Chapter 07: The Path of the Warrior. After dinner, Wu Ma cleaned up. Zhou Tao returned to the blacksmith's workshop, looking at the furnace and tools. Zhou Tashu usually lived upstairs in the blacksmith's workshop. Yan Dechang said he was going out, changed his clothes, went straight to the backyard, pulled out the rhinoceros dragon horse, saddled it and rode out without saying where he was going. Only Yan Liqiang remained at home, and he suddenly found himself with some free time. In the past, he had no free time. Between dinner and sleep, except for digestion, he basically spent his time practicing in his backyard, with Yan Dechang watching over him and personally supervising him, never letting up for a single day. The little bit of fame Yan Liqiang had among the youths of Liu Town was earned drop by drop with his sweat over the years. without a shred of luck. The front yard of Yan Liqiang's house is by the Li River. The blacksmith's workshop has a water-powered hammer machine. The backyard is opposite the front yard, and outside the backyard is a bamboo forest, a very quiet place. The stable and the fodder room are under two tile-roofed houses on this side of the backyard. There is a peach tree in the backyard. Under the peach tree is a weapon rack, on which are placed 4 types of weapons: knives, spears, swords, staffs. The staff is the ancestor of all weapons. The sword is the king of all weapons. The knife is the heart of all weapons, and the spear is the sovereign of all weapons. These are the 4 most common weapons, the most used and the most lethal weapons. For over 90% of martial arts practitioners, the weapon they specialize in is one of these 4. To be more precise, because staffs have less killing power, not many people use staffs. Most people specialize in knives or swords. They say mastering the staff takes a month, the knife a year, and a lifetime for the spear. The spear is the most difficult of ththese 4 weapons to master, so relatively speaking, fewer people practice spear techniques than those who practice knives and swords. But Yan Liqing's main weapon was the spear. This wasn't Yan Liqiang's own choice. His path was chosen for him by Yan Dechang when he first began his martial arts training. Yan Liqiang didn't understand why Yan Dechang, who knew nothing of martial arts, would select such a difficult path for him. For all these years, Yan Liqiang had been practicing the fundamentals of gun fu. Not far from the weapons rack was another stand. Beneath this stand, a row of egg-sized iron pellets were strung together with rope. These were Yan Liqiang's training aids for his gun fu practice. The pellets were coated in fluorescent powder, making them visible not only during the day but also at night, glowing eerily green under the moonlight, thus providing an equally effective training tool. The fundamentals of gun fu can be summarized in 3 words: intercept, seize, strike. Intercept the attack, seize the weapon, strike the opponent, seize is power, and strike is offense. These 3 simple words, these 3 basic movements, Yan Liqiang had practiced for 8 years, yet he hadn't even scratched the surface, because Yan Liqing hadn't yet established his foundation too. He wasn't a true warrior, therefore, his training was merely a superficial imitation. In this world, without establishing one's foundation and becoming a true warrior, no matter how hard one trains, they will never truly master a martial art. When Hong Tao knocked him off the stage with his iron sand palm, Yan Liqiang was honestly surprised. He hadn't expected Hong Tao to have cultivated the iron sand palm at this point, because Hong Tao, like him, hadn't established his foundation and was not yet a warrior. The iron sand palm requires immense time to cultivate, and spending so much time on these external martial arts at this stage is unwise. As the saying goes, first cultivate your inner strength, then practice your external techniques. Inner strength precedes external techniques. Practicing martial arts without cultivating inner strength is a waste of time. External techniques are the surface, while inner strength is the foundation. Cultivating inner strength means establishing your foundation duzi. Without it, these external techniques, however impressive they might seem now, are merely fleeting illusions, lacking lasting power and preventing true mastery. The time one has to establish their foundation is limited. Heaven doesn't grant you an abundance of time to squander. Generally, if someone hasn't established their foundation before the age of 25, their chances of ever doing so become extremely slim, meaning they'll never become a warrior. Take Yan Dekang's disciple Joeshu for example. After he turned 25 and still hadn't established his foundation, he gave up hope and came to learn a practical trade from Yan Dechang. In my past life on Earth, warriors seem to be everywhere. Many people, after just a few years of practicing some form of combat, became physically strong, carried a sword, dared to attack and kill, and called themselves warriors. By this world's standard. In this world, the standard for becoming a warrior is to achieve foundational cultivation duzi, which requires passing 3 trials, each progressively more difficult than the last. Each trial has objective and verifiable standards. Only those who pass these 3 trials and complete their foundational cultivation are eligible to call themselves warriors. Only warriors can truly cultivate various martial arts and combat skills to a high level. Yan Liqiang has trained diligently since childhood, sweating profusely every day in this small courtyard, yet he hasn't even passed the first of these 3 trials. The first trial is the horse stance, jama, but a fundamental exercise that every martial artist must master, while seemingly simple, and something everyone can do in reality. The number of people who can truly pass this trial is likely less than 1 in 100. What constitutes passing the horse stance? One must achieve perfect unity of waist and legs, yoma hayi, channeling all their body's strength from the feet, generating the feeling of having a horse beneath them, to be considered successful. Passing this trial means that in a real fight, one person could single-handedly take on 10, far surpassing the majority. To help Yan Liqiang pass this trial, Yan Dechang spent a fortune to buy a rhinoceros dragon horse. Keeping the horse at home serves a dual purpose: to allow Yan Liqiang to learn horsemanship and, more importantly, to help him understand and internalize the immense power of man and horse as one. When the rhinoceros dragon horse runs at full speed, and he punches and thrusts his spear from its back, those who truly master the horse stance when they punch feel as if they are riding a horse. The power generated from their feet, thighs, waist, and back are all transmitted to their fist. Such a punch easily crushes ordinary people. There's a saying, an arm can't twist a thigh. Considering the difference in muscle strength between the arm and the thigh will illustrate the vast difference in power. Ordinary people punch using only the strength of their arms. At best they might incorporate chest and back muscles, Professional boxers may use some waist power. However, mastering the horse stance enables you to use the strength of your toes. This is why all martial artists regard the horse stance as fundamental. A perfected horse stance gives you the added power of a horse. Even standing still, you feel as though you're riding a steed, still yet powerfully present. Yan Liking didn't understand these principles on Earth, but in this world everyone knows them. But knowing is not the same as doing. Almost every high school student on Earth knows that the atomic bomb comes from Einstein's mass-energy equivalence equation. But knowing the equation doesn't mean everyone can build an atomic bomb. To pass the horse stance test requires not only willpower and perseverance, but also perhaps some unknown secrets. As a simple blacksmith, Yan Dekang could only do his best to help Yan Likang overcome this hurdle. Unaware of the intricacies and unable to afford a master instructor for Yan Likang, like most ambitious parents, Yan Dekang could only rely on common knowledge and bought Yan Likang a rhinoceros dragon horse, hoping that learning to ride would help him understand the essence of the horse stance. In this world, true skills, the profound secrets and knowledge related to martial arts and combat techniques, are incredibly expensive. This knowledge and skill, much like high-value patents in Earth's commercial society, are not accessible to ordinary people. It's the exclusive domain of a select few. Only the truly wealthy and powerful families can afford to hire master instructors. Even the Hong family, with their influence in Liu Town, wouldn't have the resources or the means to hire such a master. True masters are at least of warrior cultivation, possessing skills and secrets and willing to teach them. As far as Yan Liking knew, there were almost none of such individuals in Qing County. Pingxi County had two, one residing in the county seat. Surnim Song he taught the horse stance, and among those who studied under him for 10 years, roughly 1/3 could pass the fundamental horse stance test. Yan Liqiang's father naturally wanted to send his son to learn, but couldn't afford the tuition. To become a student of Master Song required at least 100 taels of gold, non-negotiable. The entire Yan family fortune, including the blacksmith workshop, was worth at most 20 taels of gold, without gold and silver paving the ground. True skill is unattainable. The scenario of presenting a basket of eggs, some pork and a couple of bottles of wine to a master in exchange for tutelage is only seen in Earth's films and television dramas. As for the plotline, also seen in Earthgate, where a student is taken in by their master, who feeds and teaches them martial arts secrets for free, while the master and his wife have a beautiful daughter for the student to pursue. Such a situation is pure fantasy. If Yu Bakun from Jin Yong's novels lived in the Silver Continent, he would be a revered figure akin to a mythical Lei Feng. The importance of this year's National Martial Arts County Examination stems from the fact that the top performers gain access to the county's Martial Arts Academy. The apprenticeship opportunities at the County Martial Arts Academy are almost the only path for ordinary people to have a chance at learning true skills and becoming warriors. Hence its significance is self-evident. The reason everyone in this world yearns to achieve foundation establishment and become a warrior is that being a warrior is not merely a title, but a privileged class that stands above the commoners. Becoming a warrior means becoming a member of the warrior class, gaining the hope and means to rise to prominence. Wherever they go, they are the elite. In ancient China, there was a saying, all pursuits are inferior, only studying is superior in this world. However, it is all pursuits are inferior, only martial arts are superior. The reason the Hong family of Liu Town is so powerful is solely because Hong Tao's great-grandfather, his father's father, was once the only warrior in the entire town. On the strength of this, Hong Tao's great-grandfather secured a vast fortune for the Hong family in Liu Town, dozens of shops, 7 or 8 rice mills, and thousands of acres of fertile land, all belonging to the Hong family. A legacy benefiting 3 generations from the achievements of one man. At this thought a light bulb went off in Yan Liqiang's head, and he suddenly understood, fully grasping the Hong family's predicament. The Hong family hasn't produced a warrior in 3 generations. As an ancient saying on the Silver Continent goes, the blessing of a warrior lasts 3 generations, then fades. While the Hong family seems prosperous now, the head of the family, Hong, must be filled with apprehension. Hong Tao is the only one in the younger generation with a chance to advance to warrior, so the family is putting so much effort and anxiety into the county examination. Hong Tao becoming a warrior would be the ideal outcome for the Hong family. But even if he fails, as long as no one in Liu Town achieves the warrior status in Hong Tao's generation, the Hong family's position in the town would remain unchallenged, allowing them to continue their prosperous albeit precarious existence, pinning their hopes on the future. Therefore, making Hong Tao a warrior is the Hong family's primary objective, while ensuring the family's continued status even if he fails is their fallback plan. Recalling his experiences in the arena today, the ice ant, and Q Donglei's anxious expression when he saw him, Yan Liking suddenly understood everything. Qi Donglei's family is also an ordinary family in Liu Town, truly despicable. Past experiences had taught Yan Liking a crucial lesson early on when confronted with a problem. Evasion was impossible. The issues that targeted him were fated unavoidable. Avoidance and retreat wouldn't make them disappear, they would simply reappear in a different guise, relentlessly pursuing him. Eventually he would find his options shrinking, his space narrowing until he was backed into a corner. You either conquer it, or it conquers you. There's no third path. Very well, since fate has granted me 2 lifetimes and placed me in such a wondrous world, choosing this path for me, then I shall live life to the fullest, resolutely forging ahead along this road. I'll see what wonders await, and how far I can ultimately go. Having instantly grasped the Hong family's intentions and recalling his injuries, Yan Liking felt a surge of boundless fighting spirit. He fully immersed himself in his current role, A life without struggle is no different from that of a salted fish. Under the moonlight, gazing at the tranquil backyard, Yan Likang murmured to himself, a faint smile gracing. Yan Dekang rode his rhinoceros horse out, only returning home near dawn. Hearing the sounds from the backyard, Yan Likang quickly emerged from the house. There he saw Yan Dechang, his face wary, and the rhinoceros horse, still sweating and snorting heavily. Yan Likang promptly dismounted the horse, removing its saddle and lantern, then led it to the stable, adding feed mixed with wine dregs before returning to the house to see Yan Dekang. You leave Lu Town and Qing County tomorrow? Yan Dekang sat firmly on a wooden chair, wiping his face with a wet towel brought by Mama Wu, while sternly addressing Yan Liking. Yan Liking was surprised. Ah, father, where do you wish me to go? Go to Wanglong County. I have a good friend there who will take care of you. Don't worry, you can recuperate there peacefully. We'll talk about everything else once you're better. With Yan Dekang's explanation, his father, Yan Dechang, had also seen the threat the Hong family posed, especially after Yan Likang was severely injured by Hong Tao in the arena today. Fearing the Hong family might take action against him, Yan Dekang wanted him to leave Lu Town, virtually Hong family territory, for safety. The ostensible reason was to recover from his injuries, but the real purpose was to avoid trouble. Yan Likang fell silent for a moment. Then, you'll leave it to father's arrangements, it's getting late. Go pay your respects to your mother's memorial tablet and then go to rest. Yes! Chapter 008 Seeking refuge in Huanglong. Yan Liking couldn't sleep a wink. On his first night reborn he lay in bed, his mind racing through memories of the past, especially after midnight. The area where Hong Tao's iron sand palm had struck burned fiercely, as if someone were scorching him with fire. This made it impossible for him to sleep, tossing and turning. He also felt fortunate that Hong Tao hadn't yet honed his iron sand palm to a higher level. It was said that a master of the iron sand palm could, with a single strike, instantly scorch and pulverize a person's internal organ, easily taking it. The palm's force was most damaging to the lungs. Even survivors often suffered permanent lung damage that was incredibly difficult to heal. Thus, with both physical discomfort and racing thoughts, Yan Liking unknowingly heard the first crow of a rooster. The sky was still dark. Usually this was the time Yan Likang would rise to begin his martial arts practice. Yan Likang quickly got up, washed, changed clothes, and after eating breakfast prepared by Mother Wu with Yan Dekang, he packed led his rhinoceros steed from the stable, saddled it, and then with Yan Kang seated in front and himself behind, arms around his father's waist, they rode out of the house. The rhinoceros horse sported a rhinoceros-like horn on its forehead. Its hide tough as a typical rhinoceros horse, stood at least 2 meters tall at the withers, its limbs long and powerful, appearing easily half again the size of a normal horse. Putting an ordinary horse next to a rhinoceros horse was like placing a compact car beside an Audi, no comparison whatsoever. This rhinoceros horse was the most valuable possession in Yan Likang's household, though not among the finest of its kind. The rhinoceros horse Yang's family owned was still quite respectable. Carrying 2 people was effortless for such a beast. Most ordinary families who needed horses for riding or martial arts training purchased common horses. These were versatile, easy to care for, and could perform various tasks besides riding. But Yan Dekang instead had bought an expensive rhinoceros horse. The price of a single rhinoceros horse was roughly equivalent to 5 ordinary horses. Yan Likang had once asked his father why he had bought such a creature. Yan Dekang explained that cavalry on the battlefield rode rhinoceros horses, and that anyone serious about spear training would eventually ride one as well. Yan Likang had nothing more to say. Yan Dekang spared no expense in his investment in Yan Likang. By the time the two set out, dawn had broken, and the streets of Lu Town were already bustling with activity. Martial artists, small business owners, and vegetable vendors. The townsfolk cast strange looks at Yan Likyang and his father as they rode past on the rhinoceros horse, even without a word spoken. A single glance told Yan Likang that news of his humiliating defeat in yesterday's arena had already spread throughout Lu Town. Have you heard? Yan the blacksmith's son was severely injured yesterday in the preliminary martial arts trials in the county by Master Hong's son. I heard he vomited blood and fell unconscious, several bones broken. He won't be able to use his hands for months. They used to say Yan the blacksmith's son was formidable, but I think Master Hong's son is even more powerful. Listening to the idle chatter of those people by the roadside, Yan Dechang's face was far from pleasant. He simply frowned, gave a tug on the reins, and urged his rhinoceros horse to quicken its pace. The two had just left the village when they encountered Lu the butcher and his son driving an ox cart. Emerging from another village path, the two sets of father and son met at the village entrance. Ho ho. Isn't this Yan the blacksmith? So early out with your son, off to the clinic? Lu the butcher chuckled upon seeing Yan Dechang and Yan Likyang. His equally corpulent son cast a gleeful look at Yan Likyang. Lu the butcher's son was beaten up a few times by Yan Likang when they were children. The Yan and Lu families had some minor friction because of their children, and their relationship was somewhat strained. My son is fine. We're not going to the clinic. Ha ha ha. I know all about now. The Hong family is holding a grand banquet. Last night, the Hong family steward came to me to order several pigs. I'm also rushing to collect pegs from the neighboring villages this early morning, Lu the butcher said, with a smug self-satisfied air. I've always said it, martial arts aren't for everyone. For ordinary folk like us, it's just for strengthening the body. Don't think too much about it. Wanting to become a warrior, it's not that easy. In the whole of Lu Town, only old Master Hong is a warrior. The rest of us should just do our own thing, just like my son. He should learn to butcher pigs since that's what he's doing, and you should stick to your blacksmithing. Isn't that fine? From a young age, Lu the butcher's son would complain whenever he had to practice his horse stance, but his eyes would light up when food was mentioned. He was clearly not cut out for martial arts. He eventually learned his father's trade and became a butcher. Aside from the conflict between their children, Lu the butcher, whenever he had the chance, would spread the word that Yan Liking was not suited to martial arts and would eventually follow his father to be a blacksmith just like his son. Sometimes, human hearts are so ugly. When people are not doing well themselves, they can't bear to see others doing well. They lack the ability to transcend their social class, yet they're even more intolerant of anyone around them who shows signs of doing so. The moment they sense such a possibility in someone close to them, jealousy flares, and attacks and rumors fly. Witnessing the failure of those around them is their greatest comfort. With people like Lu the butcher and his son, Yan Liking saw right through their very core. He didn't even bother speaking to them. He simply looked at them with indifference. The only way to deal with such people is to achieve success and power that leaves them despairing, ultimately forcing them to look up to you in awe, even prostrate themselves before you, never again daring to speak loudly in your presence. Anything else is futile. Don't bother yourself, Yan Liking replied coldly, gave a tug on the rein, and the rhinoceros horse sprang into motion, instantly leaving Lu the butcher and his son far behind. Spit. Watching the Yan father and son depart, Lu the butcher spat on the ground, sneering. Well, see how long your family's luck lasts, and how far your son will ever get. The road to the county town was the old route. Yan Likang's body hadn't fully recovered, and couldn't handle too much jolting. Though Yan Liking controlled the rhinoceros horse's speed, it was still considerably faster than an ox cart. In less than 20 minutes, they dismounted at the Lia Wharf, not far from the county town. You'll get off the boat at the Wanglong County Wharf. Someone will be there to meet you. He's about my age, with only 4 fingers on his right hand. Just call him Uncle Chuan. He'll take care of you. Stay in Wanglong County, rest and heal. Don't worry about home, and don't write or send any messages. If anything happens, he'll come fine, and the people there will let me know. Yan Liking gave Yan Liking careful instructions at the wharf. Then, he pulled a heavy pouch from his clothes and thrust it into Yan Liking's arms. This is for your expenses. Buy whatever you need. Don't worry about saving money while you're away. I've put medicinal wine in your bag. Remember to use it. Yes, I understand. I believe my son will make me proud and become a warrior someday. Yan Liking placed his hand heavily on Yan Liking's shoulder, giving him a fung, merely nodded solemnly. After instructing Yan Liking saw him off onto a cargo ship still unloading logs at the dock. Boss Wang, this is my son. I'll trouble you with him. What trouble is there? It's on the way. Here are 2 bottles of aged wine. Let the crew try it. It'll help them ward off the evening chill. Master Yan, you're too kind, Boss Wang said, his smile bright as he accepted the wine. 10 minutes later, the cargo ship calfed off. Several crew members using poles to push off from the dock. The ship left the harbor and sailed into the distance. Yan Liking didn't leave immediately. He stood on the dock, holding his rhinoceros horse, watching the ship carrying Yan Liking sail away. Even when the ship was far out on the water and the dock was disappearing from Yan Liking's sight, he could still see that figure standing silently by the dock. A complex mix of emotions surged within Yan Liking, along with a strange sense of excitement. This was the first time in his 14 years that Yan Liking had left Qing County. Before this, his life had been confined almost entirely within its borders. After a brief moment of parting sadness, Yan Liking declined the cabin offered by Mr. Wang and sat on a pile of lumber on the boat, eagerly observing the riverside scenery. For someone reborn into this world from 21st century Earth, this world was a Shangri-La. Everywhere he looked, the riverside views rivaled the Shishi wetland, and even the river water evoked Xu Zhomo's farewell to Cambridge again. The cargo boat moved slowly downstream. A few crewmen cast fishing lines into the water. Soon the bell on one line jingled. They hauled it in, revealing a foot-long carp wriggling fiercely. The crewmen erupted in laughter. After Yan Liking finished eating the fish and drinking the delicious fish soup with the crewmen, and after several hours of travel, the boat docked at a wharf. Here we are! Chapter 009 Enmity and Affection. Wanglong County was a large county, with a larger population and area than Qing County, and a significantly more developed economy. Consequently, its wharf was far more bustling than Qing County's. No fewer than 100 vessels were moored at Wanglong County's wharf. Warehouses lined the docks, and laborers, busily loaded and unloaded goods. Seeing this thriving port found everything incredibly fascinating. Whoa, watch out! Just as Yan Liking stepped onto the wharf, about 10 meters away, a laborer carrying a large burlap sack slipped while boarding a boat. Both the sack and the man plunged into the river, causing a collective gasp from the onlookers. Seeing someone fall into the water and right beside him, Yan Liking didn't think twice before rushing over to see if he could help. Oh dear, that's a whole bag of spun cotton yarn. I just received it. Don't let it get soaked! A man who looked like a merchant nearly jumped off the boat, quickly retrieving the cotton yarn. With both man and goods in the water, the first thing that came to the merchant's mind was to retrieve the goods, not the man. Yan Liking almost wanted to curse. His eyes swept across the ground, spotting a rope nearby. He immediately ran to get it, preparing to rescue the man. But someone was faster than Yan Liking. Just as he reached the water's edge with the rope, an old ferryman, barefoot on a nearby small boat, used a 7 or 8 meter long punting pole. With a gentle lift, the strong worker's body shot from the water and landed steadily on the wharf. The cotton yarn! The cotton yarn! The worker, having just emerged from the water, disregarded his own safety and cried out as soon as he hit the ground. The old ferryman's punting pole plunged into the water again, and with another lift, the large bag of cotton yarn flew from the water and landed on the wharf. The old ferryman rescued the man and retrieved the yarn in a matter of seconds. The entire process was swift and efficient, a near miss dissolving into nothing. People on the wharf and nearby boats couldn't help but applaud. The old ferryman said nothing, simply bowed slightly to those around him, his expression calm. "Excuse me," he said, then returned to his boat and continued his work as if he had just performed a trivial task. Yan Liqiang, still holding the rope, was astonished. He realized that while the old ferryman used a punting pole, his movements in lifting the man and the cotton yarn were those of a master of spear fighting. This was evident in his grip on the pole, a firm, understated hold. Standing on the boat, his stance was steady as a mountain, effortlessly lifting the 100+ kilograms of man and tens of kilograms of goods. It was as if he were using chopsticks to pick up 2 bean sprouts. Only decades of dedicated spear practice could achieve such skill. Yet, such a man worked as a ferryman. This only meant one thing: the old ferryman had not achieved the foundational level. Without this base, no matter how skilled his spear techniques, they remained external, surface-level skills unlikely to progress further. As the ferryman aged and his strength declined, his decades of hard work in spear fighting would ultimately be in vain. Practice without cultivation, and all your efforts are wasted. The merchant quickly directed his men to spread out the silk veils to dry. Fortunately, they hadn't been submerged for long, and the river water was clear, so the veils weren't stained and the damage was minimal. "Such a pity," a voice suddenly said from behind Yan Liqiang. Yan Liqiang turned to see a middling a short distance away. He was in his 40s, wearing a dark red military uniform of the town guard, cinched with a fine oxide tiger head belt. His belly protruded, suggesting he held a commissioned officer's rank. Likely a lieutenant. He had a scruffy beard, appeared rather slovenly and unkempt, and reeked of alcohol. Other officers would have swords or daggers hanging from their belts, but this man's belt held a wine flask. As Yan Liqiang turned, the man's gaze fell on his face. He paused slightly, his expression turning complex, muttering to himself, like. Yan Liqiang's eyes scanned the man's right hand. His little finger was missing. Yan Liqiang quickly bowed to the man. The man's expression returned to normal. He looked at Yan Liqiang, his gaze lingering on the rope still in his hand, a slight smile playing on his lips. "You were about to save them, were you?" Yan Liqiang dropped the rope, a little embarrassed. "It's a matter of life and death. One can't be heartless." "Haha, a matter of life and death. We can't be indifferent." The middle-aged man burst into laughter, clapping Yan Liqiang on the shoulder. "Come on. In Huanglong County, you'll live better than in Qing County." After meeting at the docks, the man led Yan Liqiang away from the wharf to a nearby road. The road here was bustling with people and vehicles, even more so than in Qing County. The docks were a hub for passenger and cargo traffic. So many ox carts and horse-drawn carriages, both passenger and freight, were parked along the road outside. Just as Yan Liqiang wondered if this man, whom he called Uncle Xuan, would call a carriage. Before the man even had to ask, a horse-drawn carriage that specifically carried passengers, parked not far away, smoothly rolled over, stopped before them, and the driver nimbly jumped down, bowing and scraping a greeting to the man. "Master Xuan, take my carriage?" "Haha, you're sharp, kid. Alright, I'll give you the business. Let's take your carriage." The carriage driver, beaming, opened the carriage door for Yan Liqiang and the man. "Where to, Master Xuan? The Drunk Fragrance House or the Joyful Fragrance House? I heard the Joyful Fragrance House got some pretty girls in lately." "All waiting for Master Xuan." "Ahem." The man surnamed Xuan glanced at Yan Liqiang, waved his hand. "Enough nonsense. Take us to the artisan machinery camp." Right away, right away." Two men climbed into the carriage. The driver shut the door, climbed to the front, gave the reins a flick, and the horses sprang into motion. The two-wheeled carriage moved swiftly, offering a degree of privacy inside. Aside from the gentle rocking, the drawn curtains effectively shielded the occupants from view. Yan Liqiang, seated in the carriage, was a whirlwind of unanswered questions. The fact that his father had entrusted him to the care of this Mr. Chun spoke volumes about his father's absolute trust in the man, indicating a relationship of considerable depth. Yet, strangely, throughout his childhood, he'd never once heard his father mention this friend in Huanglong County. This Mr. Xuan had never before visited their home. The nature of their bond remained utterly baffling. The carriage swayed gently. Mr. Xuan, seated opposite Yang, looked at his face, his eyes flickering with complex emotions. "Your father has told me about you," he said. "The Hong family may be a force to be reckoned with in Qing County, but a family that hasn't produced a martial artist in 3 generations, no matter how far their claws reach, can't touch Huanglong County, and even if they could, I'd chop those claws off and make sure they regret it. Just follow my instructions and focus on recovering. Thank you, Uncle Xuan. Bye." "Did your father ever mention me?" Yan Liqiang shook his head. "Humph." Mr. Chun let out a cold snort, a hint of displeasure in his voice. "My name is Xuan Su. I was your father's junior martial brother. We both studied under the same master." "Junior martial brother?" Yan Liqiang looked at Xuan Su with a questioning gaze. Xuan Su seemed to know what Yan Liqiang was thinking. He picked up the wine gourd hanging from his waist, opened it, and took a sip. "Your father and I learned the blacksmith trade, not martial arts. Later, because of something your father and I had a falling out and we haven't spoken in all these years. I know Hez in Liu Town, and he knows him in Huanglong County. It's just that even though our anger subsided, neither of us could bring ourselves to reach out. I never expected him to find me last night. Was it because of my mother that you and my father fell out? Yan Liqiang asked calmly. Xuanhuan was about to take a second sip of wine when his hand froze in mid-air. He stared at Yan Liqiang in astonishment, surprised by his perceptiveness. Did your father tell you? No, I guessed. Liqiang shook his head. Men falling out, in most cases, boils down to two things: money or women. This was a life lesson Yan Liqiang had learned in his past life. It might sound commonplace, but it's the truth. Judging from Xuanhuan's complicated expression when he first saw him, and considering his relationship with and his father's character, it was likely a matter of the heart that caused their rift. Xuanhuan took another large gulp of wine. A hint of lingering melancholy appeared on his stubbled face. Your mother was our master's daughter. Your father and I both liked her, but she chose your father. Uncle Chu's mother is gone. Both you and my father are men of loyalty. Let the past be the past. Yan Liqiang sighed. Hey, you're right, let the past be the past. To be honest, I'm glad your father came to see me. Xuanhuan let out, looked at Yan Liqiang again, and suddenly smiled. Your father said you've never traveled far. You spent your days practicing martial arts. You're somewhat introverted, guileless, not good at socializing, and not good with words. He asked me to take care of you. It seems your father might have misjudged you. What could Yan Liqiang say? He simply widened his eyes, gazing at the man before him with an innocent, guileless, and endearing look, his expression like that of a pink-haired and I'm loving girl sporting colored contacts and taking a selfie. Xuanhuan nearly choked on his next sip of wine. Brought on by Yan Liqiang's expression, he started coughing violently in the carriage. When Yan Liqiang arrived in Huanglong County, in the study at the back of the Hong family's mansion in Li Town, the Hong family's patriarch Hong Tao's grandfather was frowning slightly, listening to a report from one of his stewards. The Hong family patriarch, Hong Chengshu, appeared quite affluent. In his 60s, he wore a luxurious indigo blue silk gown, his hair meticulously combed. Seated in a high-backed armchair, he played with a few iron balls. As the steward reported, the smile on the patriarch's face gradually faded, his eyes slowly sharpening. You say that Lu the butcher saw the Hong father and son heading towards the county town this morning, and later only Yan Liqiang returned alone, while Yan Liqiang did not come back with him. Yes. The steward who was speaking to the patriarch nodded. Originally, I thought Yan Liqiang had taken his son to a medical clinic for treatment, but this afternoon I had people check several clinics in the county town, and none of them had seen Yan Liqiang. Does anyone know where Yan Liqiang has gone? No one knows Yan Liqiang's whereabouts yet, the steward whispered, then seemed to remember something. Right, last night on my way back I ran into the Yan father and son. They still refused to back down, and Yan Liqiang seemed somewhat different from before. Not as dull-witted, the steward then recounted his encounter with Yan Liqiang the previous night, repeating the young man's words verbatim to the patriarch. Listening to the steward's account of Yan Liqiang's words, the patriarch narrowed his eye. The iron balls he was rotating in his hand stopped abruptly. Resuming their movement after a couple of seconds, he murmured, Yan Liqiang's previous dullness might have been a pretense, orchestrated by his father to make us overlook him. But after the preliminary martial arts trials, the Yan father and son saw that our Hong family had made our move against them, so there was no longer any need for such pretense. The patriarch chuckled coldly. However, at this point they have no choice. First, arrange for someone to find out Yan Liqiang's whereabouts. Even if our Hong family hasn't produced a martial artist for 3 generations, Liu Town is still our Hong family's Liu Town. We won't let a blacksmith's son turn the world upside down. Yes! And another person emerged from a hidden door. This person was thin, with a sickly green complexion, unpleasant triangular eyes, and a large black mole on his left cheek. His aura was sinister. Patriarch Hong. I said it was best to act a few days ago. If I'd found them at night, I could have broken his spine with one strike. He would have been crippled for life, confined to a wheelchair, unable to practice martial arts, and we wouldn't be in this mess now. A few days before the preliminary martial arts competition, if we were to have acted against Yan Liqiang, the traces would have been too obvious, attracting unwanted attention and scrutiny. It would have been far from ideal. But as long as Tao could defeat Yan Liqiang in the competition, proving the strength of our Hong family, any further incident involving the blacksmith's son would be traced back to us. I had planned to have you do it in the next couple of days, but I didn't expect the Yan father and son to be so vigilant. Hong Latai sighed and shook his head. I can't help with finding people. Hong Loyi didn't hire me for that. He only needs to tell me where he is, and I'll leave Pingxi County after him done. However, the time I've spent at the Hong residence these past few days will be added to the fee. The man chuckled, licking his lips, a glint of greed flashing in his eyes. Rest assured, our Hong family can certainly afford it. Good. Chapter Horror. The Artisan Armament Camp. The roads of Huanglong County were well maintained. The carriage, traveling smoothly, covered the distance in about 20 minutes, without much jostling. It skirted the outskirts of the county before arriving at the Huanglong County Artisan Armament Camp from the Riverside Wharf. On the way to the Artisan Armament Camp, Xuanhuan didn't treat Yan Liqiang as an ignorant child. Instead, he earnestly introduced the situation of the Huanglong Artisan Armament Camp to him, so that Yan Liqiang would have a clear understanding. In modern terms, the Huanglong Artisan Armament Camp is a logistics and equipment unit under the Pingxi County Garrison Command, a standard military organization. The Pingxi County Garrison Command is the highest military authority in Pingxi County. Units similar to the Huanglong Artisan Armament Camp exist in numerous locations within Pingxi County, each with varying responsibilities. The primary duty of the Huanglong Artisan Armament Camp is the manufacturing and repair of military equipment. Xuanhuan is the camp supervisor, a formal flying ensign. The position of camp supervisor, along with its responsibilities, is comparable to a platoon or company commander in modern armies. In the Huanglong Artisan Armament Camp, holds ultimate authority. The rank of flying ensign is equivalent to the rank of second lieutenant, first lieutenant, captain, or major in modern armies. Even the county magistrate of Huanglong County has no jurisdiction over Xuanhuan. He only answers to the garrison command. The garrison command also maintains approximately 2,000 troops in Huanglong County. The battalion commander, a hawk ensign, is only one rank above Xuanhuan. The two belong to different systems under the garrison command. Not only does the battalion commander have no authority over Xuanhuan, but he frequently requires Xuanhuan's assistance and support. Their relationship is quite good consequently. Xuanhuan lives a comfortable life in Huanglong County. Everyone shows him respect, and those with any discernment recognize this Master Xuan who frequents the various restaurants and brothels of Huanglong County. After Xuanhuan finished his explanation, Yan Liking finally understood why Yan Dekang had sent him to Huanglong County for protection. With Xuanhuan's protection in Huanglong County, there was nothing more to worry about. The artisan camp was located at the foot of a small mountain in Huanglong County. A road led directly to the camp's entrance. From the outside, it appeared much larger than the martial arts academy in King County. From the outside, one could see numerous courtyards, and behind them, a hillside covered in lush greenery. The scenery here is quite nice. Xuanhuan immediately pulled out some loose silver and tossed it to the driver. Master Xuan, I couldn't possibly accept your money. Especially this much. You giving me your business is already an honor. Please keep your money. Please keep it. The driver instinctively caught the silver Xuanhuan tossed, then hastily waved his hands, trying to return the money. Nonsense! If you don't make money driving your carriage, your whole family will starve. Do you think I'm the kind of person who rides without paying? Xuanhuan chuckled, glaring at the driver. Don't waste my time. On your way back, stop by Yungtao and tell Song, the owner, to send 4 whole roasted sheep, 20 spiced fattened chickens, and 10 vats of Yungxiao wine. Tonight, the brothers in the artisan camp are having a feast. Yes, sir. Master Xuan, rest assured. I'll deliver your message. Hurry up. Be warned. My men will swallow you whole. The driver, clutching the money, left with a wide smile, hurrying to deliver Xuanhuan's message. Xuanhuan Yan Likang directly towards the gates of the artisan camp. The gates of the artisan armory had a distinctly military air. Outside the armory stood a gatehouse, above which hung a black plaque with 3 gold characters reading Artisan Armory. On either side of the gatehouse stood rows of soldiers, their presence imposing. Seeing Xuanhuan arrive with Yan Likang, the soldiers immediately straightened their backs and stood at attention. A 30-something-year-old officer dashed out from a nearby building, saluting Xuanhuan, greeting camp supervisor. This is my nephew, Yan, has been bored at home and wants to spend a few days at the armory to see what it's like. Make sure everyone keeps an eye out for him. Don't let your own family go unrecognized, Xuanhuan said with a hearty laugh. Rest assured. The officer carefully examined Yan Likang from head to toe, as if memorizing his appearance, then nodded firmly. The soldiers nearby also took a good look at Yan Likang, committing his features to memory. Tonight feast. A welcoming dinner for my nephew. Let everyone have a good drink. Arrange for tonight's watch detail and stick to the usual rule. Those on duty tonight get an extra pot of wine tomorrow. At this, the officer and the surrounding soldiers' eyes lit up, their faces breaking into smiles. After a few words with the soldiers at the gate, Xuanhuan Yan Likang inside. Before they'd gone far, Xuanhuan grabbed a small foreman who bowed respectfully upon seeing him. Pointing to a courtyard with smoke billowing from a chimney, Xuanhuan scowled. Go ask New Daluan if that foreman thinks the bonus he received last month was too much, or if he's simply itching for a beating. The furnace isn't even fully heated yet, and he's already clanging away. How much charcoal is he wasting per hour? Is his bellows broken and he hasn't fixed it? If the swords we produce here break after just a few blows on the battlefield, I'll skin him alive! Tell him to remelt everything in the ironworks today. All extra charcoal costs will be deducted from his monthly pay. If he's feeling itchy, tell him to come find me. I'll beat the itch out of him. The foreman nodded, wiping sweat from his brow. As soon as Xuanhuan finished speaking, he hurried towards the ironworks. Xuanhuan's words might have been beyond the comprehension of others, but Yan Likang understood perfectly. He, too, had a blacksmith father. Experienced blacksmiths could judge the temperature and condition of the furnace simply by the color of the smoke from the chimney. Some could even tell the condition of the metal, whether it was too brittle or too soft, just by the sound of the hammer blows. In the artisan workshops, Xuanhuan walked like a tiger in its own territory, commanding respect wherever he went. Yan Likang watched, secretly admiring him. Each courtyard produced different items or performed different processes. Yan Likang discovered that the workshops primarily manufactured guns, large guns, the very kind he had trained with for years, along with other weaponry like swords and protective gear. Seeing those long guns, crafted from white waxwood shafts, Yan Likang felt a familiar itch in his hands. Remembering his still healing injuries, however, he had to content himself with admiring them. Finally, Xuanhuan led him to the very back of the workshops to a courtyard nestled beside a grove of trees. In that courtyard stood an elm tree, beneath which sat an old well. There was also a water pool, and near the house a tiered wooden structure, much like the drawers in a pharmacy, filled with bundles of white waxwood drying in the shade. Below this structure were 2 rooms, their doors open, overflowing with more bundles of the thick white waxwood. Even under the eaves bundles were stacked. A staircase in the center of these rooms led up to a loft above. Qiansu handed Yan Liqiang 2 keys. "You'll stay in this courtyard for the time being," he said. "You'll sleep upstairs, your room is ready." Yan Liqiang took the key round. "Such a large courtyard, and I'm the only one staying here." "Yes, just you. This is where we store the gun shafts. This white waxwood needs natural air drying before it can proceed to the next stage. It'll be 3 months or more before this batch is ready. No one will disturb you during this time. You can stay here peacefully. The artisan workshop soldiers live in the barracks not far from here, as you saw. I live in another courtyard near. And everyone will hear you." Yan Liqiang nodded in satisfaction. "Thank you, Uncle Chun. Just remember not to use fire here. No fire is allowed in this courtyard. You'll have someone deliver your meals 3 times a day. You don't need to worry about laundry or anything, someone will take care of it. This entire mountain is the artisan workshop's territory, a military zone. Everyone in Huanglong County knows this, outsiders rarely dare to enter. You're free to wander the workshops if you're bored. Go wherever you like, but let me know before leaving." "Okay, I've got it. I heard from your father that you were hit by the iron sand palm. Let me see your medicine." Yan Liqiang opened the bundle on his back, took out 2 bottles of medicine, and handed them to Qiansu. Qiansu took them, looked at them, unscrewed the lids and sniffed them, shook his head, and returned the medicine to Yan Liqiang. "This medicine is from the county clinic. It's standard, not bad, but not great either. I'll send you 2 better bottles tonight. They'll help you heal faster. Go rest in your room. I'll have someone call you for dinner so you can meet everyone." Yan Liqiang nodded, after giving his instructions. Looking at the courtyard that was temporarily his, Yan Liqiang was satisfied. He looked at the 2 keys in his hand, then went upstairs to his attic room on the 2nd floor. The room was large, a full 34 square meters. It was clean, with a complete set of army blankets on a wooden bed. There was also a table and a wardrobe. After putting his belongings down, the quiet allowed Yan Liqiang to notice a pale yellow powder scattered in some corners of the room. He also smelled a stranger. He crouched in a corner, picked up some of the powder with 2 fingers, and sniffed it. He discovered the yellow powder was sulfur. "It's for pest control." Looking at the sulfur in his hand, a sudden idea struck Yan Liqiang. This episode is complete. Welcome to subscribe. Turn on the small bell forward. Please leave your comments. I will continue to update the content behind.